Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is our episode, Paper Birch, where we're going to be talking about digital learning is here to stay. So now what? And I have the greatest with me, Dr. Teresa Wilburn. She is definitely what I would consider an out of the box thinker, and she is a professor. She has done so many wonderful things in her career for almost about 30 years. She has started her latest initiative was starting a program called Middle School University, which this resource is phenomenal. It is a resource that provides middle school parents with useful information about how to prepare their adolescents for college. She has done so many things as her role as a school counselor and a college professor, and she's also a talk radio show host. So she is going to tell us a little bit more about herself. I mean, it's so much. I don't even know where to end, Dr. Wilburn. So tell me, what else do you want the people to know?
Well, hello. First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for
Thank you for
coming.
having me. This is
Yes.
wonderful, and what
Mhm.
a wonderful topic to talk about,
Yes,
especially during this time.
absolutely.
You gave me some grace there when you said almost 30 years. It's been 35 years now, I think,
Oh my goodness.
for me, and I've stopped counting at some point. I actually started this journey when I was 12, so um,
Wow, that's
but
great.
yeah, I started out actually as a kindergarten teacher, and I taught 2 years of kindergarten. I taught 2 years of first grade. I
Hmm.
taught 1 year fifth grade, and 5 years in the eighth grade.
Wow,
So, and all of that was done in a private school setting in Catholic schools.
wow.
And so that was my journey. And once I got to that eighth grade class, I thought, what else could I do around this school? Because the classroom, the walls were coming in on me. And I think in your career, once you have, start see the walls start to come in on you, then
Mhm.
it's time to figure out what else there is to do. And it was interesting that I did my undergraduate work at Spelman College,
Okay.
and I always wondered why, when I graduated from Spelman with my degree in education,
Hmm.
all of the people who majored in business was out making so much more money than me. They probably wasn't having as much fun, but they were
Yes.
making more money than me. I said, you know what? Everybody that majored in business making so much money. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but I'm just not making any money.
Hmm.
So I went and got an MBA
Okay.
at that point.
Okay.
And that was in the early 90s. And I learned more about business
Hmm.
and what business meant. So then at that time, I tried to marry the two, the
Okay.
business and the education. In the meantime, I went ahead and became a school counselor. In private school, you didn't have to have all the certifications
Yes.
that you needed in public school. So I was still in private schools,
Hmm.
and I spent 9 years as a school counselor in private school,
Wow.
and basically helped students to find colleges. And in a private setting, you can do a lot of one-on-one,
Hmm.
which is what I did, a lot of one-on-one college coaching from a private school uh, point of view. Well, I was sitting in there doing my college teaching one day, college counseling one day, and my principal came in and he said, you're really good with parents, you're really good with the students, and I have an assistant principal opening. Why don't you come over here and, like in a casual manner? And again,
Wow.
being in private school, you didn't have to have all the certifications. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I have an MBA and I don't even have, and he said, don't worry about it. We'll
You
do
got
it
it.
on the job training type thing. Yeah.
So you were
So I
teacher,
went and said a couple of,
counselor,
mm-hmm,
teacher,
mm-hmm,
counselor, assistant
and then
principal.
became the AP. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But I was able, in a private school, I was able to use much of my business background
Okay.
because as a private school, you run yourself. I mean, all
Mhm.
the tuition was the money. You had to manage the money. You had to do
Yes.
everything from tuition to pay the teachers and all this type of thing. So I
Okay.
learned how to marry the two, the business and the education.
That's
But
good.
anyway, I spent 4 years in private school as an assistant principal and then went to public school as an assistant principal
Okay.
and then back to counseling because I started doing a lot of college teaching. So I worked for 3 universities teaching
Okay.
different college courses, everything from business to
Okay.
psychology to school administration. So I've
That's
taught
great.
all 3 of those and still do a lot of college teaching today.
Well, you are going to be able to help us out a lot with this topic today because of your experience. So let's just jump right into today's
Yes,
topic because so many people, this
yes,
is new for them. This is just new
this
for
new
parents, for teachers, for counselors, for assistant principals and
teachers.
principals all over the world. It is just something we're like, what? Okay, let's figure this out.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
it's almost like we're reinventing education through this whole
Yes,
digital learning process.
we are.
It's
We
something I
are.
wanted to talk to you. North Shore School District near Seattle announced that it
Okay.
was closing 33 schools.
Oh,
They
wow.
said they will move coursework, just like all of us, to cloud-based online learning platforms. The
Wow.
superintendent, Michelle Reed, said, let me be clear. Education is a service to which our district
It's true.
resolutely committed. It is not a place. To that end, we are shifting our education from the classroom with four walls to the cloud using Google for education. And I think that's what we're seeing everyone doing, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, one of my questions is for you, what do you think about what's happening now with the digital learning process because we've had to embrace this due to COVID-19? What are some things that what are you thinking about as
Yeah.
far as
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
teacher
Absolutely.
parents and everything?
Yeah. Well, initially, the COVID-19 changed us because, first of all, we wanted students safe. We wanted
Yes.
students safe. We wanted teachers safe. We wanted people to live.
Hmm.
Okay. So we had to make a shift. So we have to keep in mind at this moment why we changed so
Yeah.
drastically. And it was
Yes.
for school safety. So
Absolutely.
that's important. So
Yes.
being safe and school safety thrust us in or threw us in to this new mode of learning, teaching and learning.
Hmm.
And it what it has done is let us know what we need to do
Yes.
to make it happen. Because like you said, part of it is going to become a new normal.
Yeah.
It is going to become a new normal. Now, what does that look like?
Hmm.
Now, it's different for K-12
Hmm.
than it is for colleges.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's two different things here. As far as K-12, there were already some models out there.
Hmm.
However, they did not show very good results. Normally, the average online school shows the average now is about 33% pass rate.
Okay.
Okay, so we've already had it in place. It just was not totally successful.
Okay.
So, and part of that is because our society mindset had not shifted to, okay, we're online learning.
Yeah.
So the whole world had not embraced it. As a result of what we're going through now, we had to embrace it. We said, okay, we have to embrace this.
Hmm.
And because we had to do it overnight, it took a toll on everyone, mostly parents at home.
Yeah.
That I think that was the shift because parents are now trying to manage going to work or not going to work or how am I going to do this?
Yes.
Companies and businesses had to help parents out and give some leeway here
Hmm.
to make adjustments at home. That's one of the things
Yeah.
that was big for us.
Yeah.
How does a parent manage work and home and now
Hmm.
with kids at home?
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, for some small kids, school was daycare.
Hmm.
School was a place for parents to safely drop their children off and
Mhm.
still be able to go to work.
Mhm.
So that's a large component.
Yeah, and I noticed that some districts, I was speaking to someone in North Carolina, and they were talking about how they have more of a mixed model approach. It's not all
Yes,
digital learning. They did provide the kids with packets as they were leaving on their way
yes,
out the door to help sustain
yes,
them through the next couple of
yes.
weeks. And so I don't know if that's, going to be successful or not. I don't know how that's going to work long term, but I think, some districts weren't prepared, some
Yeah,
were, and some are just kind of the leads in this thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just going to be a whole lot of things being born out of this process, this
Yeah,
four or
oh,
5 weeks,
absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. Because, like you said, there were some districts that had a lot of things already in place.
Yes.
Some had kind of a synchronous or asynchronous model, you
Hmm.
know, already in place where most children were doing something
Yes.
engaging,
Hmm.
with the classroom. And some had not had a whole lot in place. And I think
Yeah.
that's something about resources. What
Yes.
resources were available in districts, and that varied from small rural towns to
Yes.
your large inner cities.
Yes.
And it was a big shift and a difference not only for the teachers but for the students' mind frame,
Hmm.
and if students had access
Hmm.
to the learning
Yes.
process. So that's what we have, another thing we've got to figure out. How do we give everyone equal access in this new digital era?
Yeah.
So that's going to be that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't have the same access.
That's right. And so it was like, oh my gosh, I remember about maybe 15 years ago, when I was doing a study, um, I guess at UGA, and we were talking about the digital divide.
Wow.
And I was like, fast forward to 2020,
Yeah,
that still exists.
it still exists. It
There
still
are
exists.
still kids that do not have access to
They
technology
do
at all.
not. They
And
do not. They do not.
you just were, I was like, darn, it's 2020, and
Yes.
people still don't have significant access. And that's why you do have some districts that know that. And so they are doing the mixed model. They have the packets,
Right.
they have
Right.
spoke to someone else that was out in California that they not only have the packets, but they also do a pickup. And so
Mhm,
it's just
mhm, mhm,
everything, has been changed. What are some
mhm.
positives that you think are going to come out of this?
The positives are that we are going to have to embrace the change.
Mhm.
And what we now have is more data on the digital divide
Mhm.
so that we can fill the gaps that need to be filled.
Yes.
Okay? It also let parents know what they need to do at home differently.
Yeah.
It let teachers know what they need to do differently,
Mhm.
all the way up to our superintendents
Mhm.
as to what we need to do
Yeah.
differently. Okay, I was interested in that superintendent that you just mentioned in Seattle.
Mhm.
Now, all of that, the superintendent did not make that change on her own.
Mhm.
That had to be done by a board, which means
Yeah.
that parents had to have some input.
Yes.
So going forward, what we'll see is more input from parents as to
Absolutely.
what they need for their children at home. So more parent engagement now, I think,
Oh,
will
absolutely.
happen. And do we really need to go to a full, total learning environment? Total, one of the things that I think the most sad thing for all of this is our seniors who've had to, seniors
Oh
in high
my
school or seniors in
gosh.
college who are used to the normal traditional graduation. I
Yeah.
think so now everybody's trying to be creative. All educators are trying to be creative and
Yeah.
figure out how do we celebrate
Yeah.
these students digitally.
Yeah.
So I think that's the good of and the bad
Yeah.
of some things of what we're really going to have to totally change
Mhm.
and really put some energy and effort and be creative
Yes. So
It's
it sounds,
not the traditional
no.
anymore.
So it sounds like after this is over with, school districts, in order for them to thrive, they really need to put together a team, this digital learning team that consists of what you just said: parents, teachers, board members, counselors, principals, and actually design, take back all the data, all the feedback from this 4 or 5 weeks, or however many, how many weeks we have left, and take that data back and look at it and find best practices, find things that didn't work, and formalize a plan, because we don't know what the next thing is going to be down there. It could be, we've had weather issues that have shut schools down for
Exactly.
weeks.
Exactly. But
So
nothing like this. And let me
nothing like
say,
it.
this is the most, one of the most important things is that what we'll continue to see, and it's not, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, that students in low socioeconomic areas
Mm-hmm.
will show the smallest gain
Mm,
during this biggest shift. So
okay.
until we address the low socioeconomics
Yes.
in our country, and what and what the how we can make a change there,
Mm-hmm.
because in your low socioeconomic areas, remember, we still have to deliver lunches,
Mm-hmm.
we got to give out Chromebooks,
Mm-hmm.
whereas in schools where that wasn't an issue, for example, i.e. my private school that
Mm-hmm.
I worked in for so long, all of the kids we know had their own books, their own
Yeah.
laptops. That was not an issue. They
Yes.
were not dependent on the lunch
Mm-hmm.
that the school normally offered. So that's a huge difference.
Yeah,
That's a huge difference.
it
So
is.
we're going to continue to see that digital divide until we go in and see what causes the divide and what gaps we can fill within that divide. But
Yes.
when this data comes out, mark my word, we will see the lowest gains
Mm-hmm.
during this time from lower socioeconomic areas.
Okay. And I believe you. I absolutely believe you. Um, so because of time, I wanted to just kind of talk to you more on a counselor perspective. Stress levels are up. I spoke to an assistant principal in North Carolina, and parents are just stressed out. Okay,
Yes,
the kids are stressed out,
yes,
right? And
yes,
so I think some schools are figuring this out and modifying these schedules and
yes,
trying to figure out how, because people are not only just dealing with digital learning, some of our students are dealing with deaths in the family because
right,
of COVID
yeah,
19, right?
absolutely.
They
Yes,
can't go anywhere because of COVID
I can.
19. I was catching myself with my own child. I'm trying to limit my conversations about this pandemic
Yeah,
around her, because every time
right.
she looks at me, she's looking at me like with so intensely, like, what is she about to say? Or I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, is the world about to end? So, what can we do? What should parents be doing about how to manage the stress level right now with all of these changes all at once? No one had time to plan for this.
Mm-mm,
It
mm-mm.
was now, make a move.
Right,
This is what's going to happen. And that's
right,
not something that people are used to.
right. One of the things I can say is that we have to um, hug our children,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, and let them know that everything's going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
that everything is going to be okay. So at this time, one of the things parents need to do is to, and it's hard because they don't know, and
Yeah.
it's always the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
But what we have to come to is preparing students and preparing our children that change is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Change is inevitable. There's always going to be change. Okay. So this is a life learning lesson for not only parents, but of how to deal with our children in, okay, things change. When
Yeah.
things change, what are how do your family values and things, all those types of things is what we need to spend some time on first.
Yeah.
Okay. Once we do that, then parents can embrace this new change and figure out, okay, now in my household, this is how we're going to do it
Mm-hmm.
when we have this change. One of the things, I have two nephews, and they all of a sudden all this big, change in their lives. One's a 10th grader and one's an 11th grader, and one is in a district where everybody had a Chromebook.
Yeah.
It was automatic. They had a Chromebook. So when school shut down, he had his Chromebook. He went home.
Table.
The other one did not have automatic Chromebook, but had some device he was using, and using his phone and using all types of things. But we had to go to Walmart and get a Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
We get to Walmart, guess what? No Chromebooks.
Because everybody has to get one.
So Google and Walmart and whoever else sell Chromebooks at this point, really, the stock went up with them.
Yes.
And parents were frantic when they went to Walmart and there were no Chromebooks.
Mm-hmm. I know they
So
were.
that type of, and then you're waiting on a school to say, okay, we got these Chromebooks, we got 5 over here and 10 over here. Yeah, some districts where they were trying to get them out.
Yeah.
So one of the things that may happen is that every school will make sure every child has a Chromebook or some type of device, some type of device that they can all have.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some, like I said, the digital divide is there again. Some districts already had them.
Yeah.
Where every student already had one. They didn't have books anymore. They just checked them out of Chromebook every year.
Yeah.
And then there were other districts where they may have had 30 in the building,
Mm-hmm.
where they were class sets.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the change that I think those are the first 2 changes. Parents, what we're going to do at home to make sure that our children don't get caught up in this digital divide again. And the school districts, the second thing is, what type of access do we have for our students?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So those are the 2 major things that I think it'll come out of. But
Absolutely.
the main thing right now, I think, is the safety of everything. And I will say this in closing, moving forward to the future, as of right now, again, it's about safety.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know when it's going to be safe to put 30 kids in a building again.
Yeah, we don't.
When can we do that? At what point? It is now April 14th, the middle of April.
Mm-hmm.
We want to say August, September, this fall. We want to say by fall we'll have this, but that's left up to the health experts.
Yeah.
To say at what point. I mean, the average classroom in this country is 30 kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's the average. There's some smaller, yeah, of course, and there's some larger. At what point will districts feel and parents feel okay to send their children back? Many people, I've talked to some of my superintendent friends all over the country, and they say until there's a vaccine in place with a treatment plan,
Mm-hmm.
how long will that take?
Yeah.
And will we go back before then? Is it safe to go back before then?
Yeah.
If not, we need to make sure that we're ready to continue to embrace the learning that we have here and today in the middle of April.
Digitally.
Yes, absolutely.
This has been great. This has been great. Your expertise. If you have any other things that you want me to share with the community, I can do that. I would love to have you, let's redo this and talk about this again, I guess in August, when things have probably, hopefully, settled down some.
Yes, yes. I'm not the medical expert, and I cannot say when.
I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but this has been great, and I really enjoyed our conversation here. Hopefully people can take this and use it.
Thank you so much for getting this type of information out.
Yes, thank you. Thank
Parents
you.
and students, it's very helpful.
Yes.
The work that you do is to be commended as well. So thank you. Thank you. Hats off.
You.
Hats off.
Thank you. Thank you. I learned from the best. You, my dear.
But thanks so much. You guys stay safe. You guys stay safe and keep learning digitally.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay. You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.